This one I made with 12 gauge wire. It's very heavy. This is something that you'll want to take on after you've experienced making these a little bit, and you're a little bit more, you have a little bit more knowledge of working with the metal and the wire and how it moves and stuff. This can be a little difficult, but totally doable. This one here is done with 16 gauge wire with 24 gauge wrap, and this one is 14 gauge wire. So it's a little bit heavier. So the smaller your piece, the finer gauge of wire that you want to use. So like, let's say for earrings, let's say, you might want to use 18 gauge wire. Maybe even 20 gauge, depending on how little it's going to be. Anyway, what I used for my mandrels for these was, this is with this clothes closet dowel. This was done with this cap. And this was done with my bench block. And this is for the yard. This is going to hang off of a tree. It could hang in your window, but I didn't make it real super see-through, you know, as far as sparkly things in it for a window, but you could do that. You could put it in your window. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two different shapes and two different styles. See, this one has front curly cues. This one has none, and there's a different way that you do this, and I'm going to show you both ways. So I'm going to show you the oval, because we do have to center. We have to make sure that we find the center, so that's important. That's the same thing with the square. You have to center it. But the round one, you don't have to find a center. You just go for it, okay? So the easiest way to get this done is, I'm going to start with the round one first. And I work right off of my spool. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use some 14 gauge wire. All right. And just go ahead and straighten it out. And remember what I said about straightening out heavy gauge wire? You want to do it with your bench block and your rawhide mallet. So you want your wire smoothed out as smooth as possible. Okay, and this is a great way. You don't have to know how much you need to do this. You just work right from the spool. And what I like to do is I take my mandrel, and I let about 2.5 or 3 inches hang over from where the center of the mandrel is. And now I'm just going to take my wire and I'm going to wrap it around once, and now let that hang off also. And you don't have to be perfect about this. Just eyeball it, really, because you're going to end up cutting off a little bit more wire, you know, cutting off some of your wire anyway. There would be wastage, but I'm just going to eyeball this. Flush cut that in. Now, this is what happens with wire. I've got it hugging the mandrel, but look what happens. The spring back causes it to go a little bit bigger, and you might like that. You might want it to be a little bit bigger. So if you want it tight and to the shape that you're putting it on, you want to make sure that this is hugging it, and you want to hold it, and then we're going to mark the center here. We're just going to put a mark across both the wires with our Sharpie. But then if you want it to spring back and you want to use that bigger side, then you're just going to hold it like so. Okay, and then you're just going to put a mark on both wires like so. Okay, now we are going to take our flat nose plier, and I like a flat nose as opposed to a chain nose because the edge here isn't as tapered and we'll get a cleaner edge. Okay, so now we're going to take these two wires and we're going to bend them straight up. So we're going to take our plier on our mark, and we're going to take and push your finger right up against your plier for, we want a nice crisp bend in that. Don't go too far, about like that. And then we're going to do the other side. There we go. Oh, gotta bend it a little bit more. There we go, just like that. Okay, now we're going to take our painter's tape and we're going to tape these two together. But first I'm going to straighten these out a little bit better. And see how wonky? Look, see how that is? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your rawhide mallet and your bench block and you're just going to start straightening everything out. Feel free to do this whenever you want throughout your work. It will make life so much easier than trying to fix it in the end. I like nipping problems in the bud early on. So I'm going to just hang this off the edge like that. Give that a couple taps. Okay, so that's what we end up with. Pretty cool, eh? All right, so now we're gonna take our painter's tape and we're going to wrap this. Okay, so we're gonna take some painter's tape, and I like painter's tape because it comes off easy and it doesn't leave sticky residue. So we don't need a really huge piece. This is kind of wide. We don't even need that wide of a piece. But what you want to do is you don't want to just take it and just wrap it. You really want to hug this on there. And we're going to go up here close to the ends here. And I lay it down. Okay, see how that's nice and together? And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it up over tight. And then I'm going to run my finger across the top there and then my nail along the edge here. And that now has it nice and taped without it, you know, going this way, and it's just done nice. Okay, now we're going to texturize the front if you want. If you're not going to texturize your front, you're just going to leave it plain, take your marker and mark your tape with an F for the front. All right, so I'm going to take this, give it a few more whacks. Okay, now I'm going to texturize this. You can either take your chasing hammer and you can go ahead and put just a nice little flat edge and then go in and texturize it if you'd like. I like this little chisel hammer here. I like this edge. This gives a really nice hatchy, rustic edge to it. So I'm going to use this one, and you're just going to go along. See how cool that looks? Then when you go in and antique it, it really holds that the darkness, the patina, and it just looks really kind of old and rustic. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this. Okay, so I'm done doing my little texturizing, and now whenever you hit it, it's going to warp it a little bit. That didn't do too bad of a job, but I'm just going to have to keep going in and hitting your piece and straightening it out. You always want to work on a nice straightened out piece. Don't let it get out of control and then try to fix it in the end. All right, that's the back side, and here's my front side. Now we're going to make our bail. We're almost done. Can you believe it? Okay, our round one is done, and it's textured. So now I'm going to show you how to make an oval one, or something that you're going to need to find the center. So what I would do is I would take my Sharpie and just mark the center of your piece, so that you have an idea of where you need to mark your thing, obviously. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to use 16 gauge wire. And same deal, okay? We're going to put it right over the top of our mandrel. And we're going to wrap it around. like so. And this one I really want to hug my piece. Now, before I cut it, I'm going to mark it. So there's my mark. I'm going to find the center here. All right, so there we go. Now, I'm just going to cut this. All right, so there's what we have. See, it sprung back, so my marks don't match. That's okay. And we're going to do the exact same thing now. We're going to take our flat nose, and we're going to bend our wires up. Now see, the way I showed you last time was I took my finger and bent my wire up. Now this time I'm turning my plier and showing you a different way of doing this. So let me show you up close. And I'm supporting it. I don't want to distort my piece, so I'm just turning my hand up. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to straighten them out. Okay, so we're going to take this one. We don't want to tape it too far down because we're going to be working in there, and then you'll just have to take it off anyway before you're ready to. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and texturize this one, and then we'll be back. For this one, I took my chasing hammer and I did put just a little flatter edge on it, and then I flipped it over and used the ball side and did a nice little hammer finish on that. So you can see the difference between the two. One is really extreme and definite, and this one is really soft. So if you really want something that's going to hold the patina, this one looks good. That one looks soft. Okay, so now we're going to do our bails, and I'm going to show you both kinds. We're going to do one that goes forward with the swirls, and we're going to do one that goes back and has no swirls. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about the wrap wire. The wrap wire is totally up to you. It's more of an aesthetic thing. The bigger your piece, the bigger you're going to want your wrap wire to be. 24 gauge is nice and fine, and that's what I'm going to use on this one. Is 24 gauge because it is smaller, and then I'm going to use 22 gauge on this one. It's a heavier wire. I want this to stand out a little bit more, so I'm going to use 22 gauge. And then if you're into something bigger, my goodness, what did I use on this one? I used 18 gauge for my wrap on that because this is so big and bold, eh? And then all of these things are done with 16 gauge. That was a workout. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm telling you, this just came about. No idea what I was going to end up with. I think it's kind of cool. Good way to get rid of your beads. Okay, so let's start with one without swirls. So I'm going to use 24 gauge, and we're going to do one that doesn't have swirls, and it looks like this, more plain. Okay? So what we're going to do is, you don't need a whole lot of wire, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cut off about 7 inches of wire. I always like to play it on the safe side. Now this wire I pre-antiqued, and I'm going to tell you that's a great tip. So here's tip number 1. When you are patinaing something and you have your sliver of sulfur solution all made out, and you don't want to waste it, go ahead and take different gauges of wire and go ahead and pre-antique a fair amount of it. That way you always have this on hand, and I really like working with pre-antiqued wire, especially for something like this. It's quicker, and I don't have to worry about mixing up the liver of sulfur and wasting it and whatnot. So this is a great tip. See, I have all kinds of different gauges here, pre-antiqued, ready to go. What I would suggest, though, it's a dirty, filthy job working with it, so I would wear some gloves. I always have boxes of these. I cook in them. I do everything in them. This side gets all nasty. Just take it. Frugal me is working now. And now put it on the other hand. Now you have a fresh side to work with. And you'll get more wear out of your gloves. Okay, so that's our tip. Two tips. Okay, now I've got my little 6 or 7 inches of wire cut, and now I have my frame. And what we're going to do is we're going to take, this is the front side. Okay, let me mark this one so that we know. Okay. If you texturize it, you always know what the front is, right? Okay, so I'm going to lay this in my left hand, and I'm going to take, let me pull this in a little bit. Okay, I am going to lay this right over the top, just like that, in those corners, with just enough wire for me to do, 2 or 3 wraps. Now you can wrap it as much as you want, whatever you want. This one isn't going to have any swirls in the front, so the wraps aren't going to be covered up. So you want to keep that in mind. Now I'm just going to take this wire, bend it into the corner like that, and now I'm going to wrap it tightly around. There's one wrap. Two. And my third one is going to come around. Like so. Now what you want to do is when you cut these ends, you want to make sure your cut end is not on the back side, because that will pick at your clothes or your skin and just irritate you. So I either like to cut it so that it stays in the center of the inside of my frame, or I will, if I have enough wire, I will fold it over the top and I'll cut it just even with the top of my frame. But I didn't allow myself enough wire here, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flush cut it on the inside here. Then I'm going to take my pliers and give that just a little bit of a squeeze. Now we have this wire here. Now we're going to take this wire and we're going to wrap it up our stem here. And you can wrap it however long you want. That's how high your bail's going to be, right? So you want your bail, if you do a lot of wraps, your bail's going to be way up here. So I usually like to do 5 or 7, depending on how big my wire is or how thick it is. So we're going to pull tight, but we don't want to pull so tight that it's going to make our wires cross. And we want one wrap right under the other one, or on top of it in this case, I guess. Okay. There we go. We don't want these to cross. We want it to be nice and neat. There we go. Now, this one isn't going to have any swirlies in the front, which means we're going to take our wires and we're going to bend them to the back. So what we need to do first now is we're going to take our flat nose. So for this to go to the back, we need to bend them towards the front first. I know it's a little confusing, but we're going to take our flat nose and we are like a millimeter from our top wrap, and we're going to support our piece and I am just going to turn these wires so that they are at a 45-degree angle, like so. Okay, and we're just going to leave this wire hanging here because this is good. We're going to wrap with this some more. Now we're going to take our bail making pliers, and you can just pick whatever size you want. This is a nice general size for these little pendants. It allows you to be able to put a multitude of stringing material through it. So we're going to take the mandrel side and we're going to put it, make sure it's on the top, like so. Now we're going to take our fingers right up against our plier here, and I like to brace my thumb here, and we're going to take and smooth this over. Now we can peel off our tape. Okay, and we want to just bring them down like so. Now, what I like to do is, see how we have that nice bend there? Well, I want to match that on this side. So I take my plier and I swing it around, and there is an edge underneath this rubber part here. And I'm going to take these wires and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a bend and then squeeze it in. There, that just makes it lay close and flush much easier. Okay, so take a look at your wires and make sure that they're coming straight down and that everything is nice and even and not wonky. That's what we have. All right, so we have this wire from the back, coming from the back. Now, see, this is what it looks like in the front so far. Come around, and we're going to wrap this nice and tight, wrapping everything together. Till we get to the end here. We're going to come across the front and see we've got this little wire left. And now this wire gets wrapped around this side. So you can no longer, you can't even see those wraps anymore. So if you want to match it, you're only going to do a couple of wraps. So that's why I like to do maybe 3 or 4 wraps if you really want it to show, because this side gets hidden and this side will show more. So now we're just going to take that wire and we're going to bring it through. Come on, wire. All right, over. Okay, for it to look even, I'm stopping now. So I got 2 wraps, and I'm going to go ahead and clip that on the inside there. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's what we have now. This is the front. And now I'm going to make everything, I see these are a little crooked, so I'm going to go ahead and just adjust it. Oops. Okay, so that's what we end up with, all right? So this is the front, this is the back, and now we are going to clip these right up against our wraps. And to do that, we're going to do them individually, and I have to lift them out a little bit. So just lift them up a little bit so you can get your cutters in there. And we're going to wedge our cutter right in there as close as we can, flush side, and give that a snip. And now the other side. There we go. Now we have these little edges right here. If that is jagged, you want to take a little file and you want to file those down. But I'm not going to bother with that right now. All right, cool. Look, that frame is done. You can leave this together, or you can get a little more fancier and you can spread it apart. There. That one's done. Cool, eh? Easy. Look how long that took me. Nothing. So now let's go and we're going to do the other one. Okay, same thing. We're going to wrap our front just like what we did before. So I'm going to use 22 gauge on this one. And I think what I'll do is I'll do some more wraps. I want to make sure that the wraps really show. The curly cues are going to hide that. So I'm going to give myself a more generous piece of wire. I don't know, about 10 inches. Listen, it's wire. You're going to waste wire, so I hate coming up short. All right, now this one I want to do more wraps, so I'm going to leave more on the end here to wrap. Okay, I have lots of wire here, so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to snip it up at the top of my frame. And I'm going to take my pliers and I'm just going to give everything just a little bit of a squeeze and make sure that that side is not jagged or poking or nothing. There we go. Cool. All right. Now, if you find that this is moved down a little bit, you can scooch it in if you want. All right. Now, we're going to wrap the top, bring this together. Keep your wires nice and straight. All right, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of a higher bail just so you can see what that will look like. So I'm going to do several wraps here, more wraps. Okay, but I don't want to short myself on wrap wire. So I have probably, what do I got there? 8, 2, 4, yeah, about 8 or 9 wraps. All right, so same thing we did before, but now the last time we brought it to the front and then we put it to the back. We're going to go opposite now. So we're going to take our flat nose, and I have the front facing me, so we're going to bend this to the back. And the way I like to do that is I just take my hand and I brace it and support my piece, and then I just push it back against my pliers. You can hold on to this and take your pliers and move them back if you want, but that's how I do that. Okay? Now we're going to take our bail making pliers. We're going to butt that right up into that corner, and we're going to bring this forward and over. This is a little heavy gauge wire and it's pretty stiff by now, so all right, now I'm going to take my tape, get rid of some of that. It's in the way. I want to put a little bit of a bend in that, even with the other one, and then bring it in. There we go. Now we're going to wrap. Come to the front here, okay, across the front to the back, And now bring this wire through and wrap it around the frame. There we go. All right. Now, when we make our curlicues, we make our spirals, heavier gauge wire requires more length to get a full spiral. Littler wire doesn't need as much. So I'm gonna keep this length. I'm gonna take the shortest one, and I'm gonna cut the one next to it the same length. Flush cut it. Okay. All right. Now we're going to take these two wires and we're just going to pull them out like that. Okay, now here's the secret to heavier gauge wire. The ends, it's a little bit hard to get them to stay in your round nose plier to make your first loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this little trick for heavier gauge wire. We're going to take and we're going to put just a little flat edge right here. Now we're going to be swirling this. Our spiral is going to go in this direction, so I want the flat to be here, not this way, because I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to roll it up that way. So I'm just going to I'm just putting a little flat edge on it, like so. And that's going to stay in our round nose better. So I'll do the other side. Okay, there we go. All right, now we're going to do our spirals. So we're going to take our wire here and we're going to support it, and we're going to try to get the smallest. This is why you need a heavy duty round nose, something heavier and chunkier, so the tips aren't so fine, because you won't be able to get that to work on this if you have fine ones. So I'm going to support this. I've really got a good grip on this, and I'm just going to slowly turn this to get my first loop. There we go. And what I do to one, I do to the other. Sometimes this takes a little imagination to get this going with everything in the way. Let's see. I'm going to try it this way. You can also run this down your thumb, which is what I'm going to do for this side, or your finger. I'm going to do it this way. There we go. Now I'm actually just moving my piece around my plier. There we go. Now we're going to do our spirals. So I'm going to get started with this as much as I can with my round nose. There's one side. Okay, so okay, I'm going to have to finish the rest of this with my flat nose. This could be a little bit difficult. Just take your time and get a good grip on it, and try not to mark up your wire as much as possible. So what I'm really going to try to do, if I can swing it, is I'm going to try to hold this steady and push my piece into my plier and see if I can't get that to work. Might have to do both at the same time. There we go. Oh, there we go. Ta-da! Okay, this one's going to be a challenge because it's in a weird position. So I'm going to have to go in the opposite direction here. Come on down. Ah, there. Okay, I'm going to do this one a little bit more. Cool, look! Ta-da! And then you want to just squeeze those in a little bit. Okay, cool. Look, there's the back. There's the front. Now, if you want to, you can just spread these if you want, or you can leave it just plain. I kind of like that. I think I'll spread it a little bit. Yeah, I'll just leave it simple, not too much. There, look how pretty. Those are ready to go. Now I can do whatever I want with those. There, I hope you like this. I hope you'll try it out. So, anyway, that's it. We're done.